It's happening. It truly, truly is. Well, as we go on, I'm still waiting for somebody to show me the law where it's sin. I'm not saying that this is a lifestyle that you must do or have to do or participate in, man. I'm just stating the truth of it. We've been trained to give a certain people a negative slant and look at them with our proud religious spirits while we get comfortable with the sodomites and the lesbians. Episkopoi, that is what is commonly called a bishop or bishopric. That's Greek number 1984. A bishopric is someone of a visitation. The act by which Yah looks into and searches out the ways, deeds, and character of men in order to adjudicate them according to their lot, whether joyous, sad, or investigation. For instance, over in Acts 1:20 as an example, for it is written in the book of the Psalms, over in Tehillim, let his habitation be what? Desolate, and let no man dwell therein, and let his bishopric be, and his bishopric let another take. In other words, this man is not worthy of that vocation. He has done immensely failed the Most High, so let's give his office to somebody else who's more worthy. 1985, the very next verse, is pronounced almost the same way, except it's called episkopos, which is bishop or an overseer, a man in general charge of an assembly, what we commonly have been used to calling church today. A man charged with the duty of seeing that things to be done by others are done rightly, and the curator, guardian, or the superintendent, head or overseer of any assembly. You hear that? So that's a designation basically that people who are over assemblies could possibly have. Over in the scriptures version of the Bible, 1 Timothy 3:1, it says, trustworthy is the word if a man longs for the position of an overseer. He desires a what? There are some people that the Most High Yah actually put a desire down into to actually be an overseer. But just because you have that desire does not mean that in life and in character you fit the bill. That's the reason why that in the book it teaches us that, people have to be ordained by elders. Hands laid on by the presbytery. In other words, your lifestyle has to be proven. Your conduct has to be proven. You have to be approved of this vocation if you're called to this. You just can't be going around just because you say that I got this laid up on my heart, this is what I want to do. You got to be tested, proven, and tried. Most High just didn't go around ordaining people left and right because they had a desire in their heart. You may have a desire, but what if your heart ain't right? I'm not the pastor that I was 20 years ago. I'm a whole lot greater in power and knowledge and understanding and comprehension and might, the whole 9 yards. And I assure you, I make a whole lot less mistakes now than I did then. I had to grow in grace, grow in knowledge. The difference is my heart was right. You understand what I mean? One thing I ain't never had a desire over is to try to rule over man, because you ain't going to do it anyway. If you do it, all you're going to do is get hurt. That's what the book says. It says an overseer then should be what? That don't mean that in this generation people, they blame you for everything. That don't mean you're not. In other words, according to the scriptures, according to the order of things, he should be blameless, the husband of what? One wife, sober, sensible, orderly, kind to strangers, and apt to do what? Teach. Notice, orderly and kind to strangers. Are you following me? See, when you see my manner of lifestyle, when I'm dealing with people and stuff, just pay attention. In Fairfax, Virginia, we had another form of lifestyle that was being displayed. It was very disorderly and not kind to strangers at all. I mean, he that winneth souls is wise. You know, wise is the wisdom that comes with it, right? As the old worldly saying goes, you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Isn't that right? The King James Version said a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of what? One wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, and apt to what? Teach. Now, both of these translations use the word one. And one of them, this version right here, is superior to this version, is translation, but even in certain areas of translation or words, it's lacking greatly itself. Why? Because it's put forth by a culture that believes a certain way. Does that make any sense? That's why they agree in the translation. But however, on careful investigation, what we're doing during this study is what many refuse to do, which is to look behind the English words presented. Why do ministers ignore this passage and elect bishops without wives and children? You know that there are assemblies out there that have bishops that do not have wives and do not have a family? When you look at the qualifications of which we'll read the rest of it, it says that you need to have a wife, not only that, but children as well. And then it goes on to say, if you can't rule your own house, how can you take care of the house of God? And just having a wife doesn't make you a ruler over a family. If you understand what I mean. You get it? And then people go into, well, what about Paul and the prophets and stuff? They were not rulers over the assemblies. They had a different administration. Even in Israel, you know, the prophets was always off to themselves. And then they'd show up. Isn't that right? The apostles would actually go around to strengthen the hand. Why do you think Paul was constantly on missionary journeys? But when you had elders and deacons and you had ministers, you had pastors and stuff, these were people that were more stationed. Does that make any sense? And of course, when you go to the prophet Jeremiah, he says in 3:15, I'm going to give you pastors, that's the Most High Yah. They're going to be according to my heart, and they're going to feed you with knowledge and understanding. Now think about that for a second. Y'all say I'm going to give you pastors according to my heart. They're going to feed you with knowledge and understanding. So now ask yourself, how many times you've been mad at me? And then if you've been mad at me for preaching and teaching y'all's truth, who you been truly mad at me? Now we go back to the prophecies. Which of the prophets have you not stoned? You get it?
Yes, sir.
Why do they then find it convenient to use it against those with more than one wife? The Greek word for the word one is 3391, which means mia, meaning one or first other. Other places, the example where the word mia, meaning one, is translated as one, and the true meaning in context of the scripture. Matthew 5:19 says, look at this, whosoever therefore shall break what? One. But when you look behind that word one, it's the same word that is translated as one wife in 1 Timothy 3:2 and 1 Timothy 3:12. Are you following? Mia, and that word really means first. So whosoever shall break one of these least commandments, is that plural or singular? Plural. And shall teach men so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Now, if we follow the line of thinking of those who are opposed to Hebrew marriage, are we to assume that there's only one commandment? Because right here it says, whosoever shall break one of the least what? So we know there's more than one commandment. Isn't that right? So it makes more sense when you put it in proper order or translate it right. Whosoever shall break first of these commandments, not the least, the first of these commandments, or the first that you would call the least. Not just one. Does that make any sense? Matthew 5:36 says, neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because You cannot make what? One hair white or what? Are we to assume? Are we to assume we all only have one black hair on our heads that Yahweh can turn white? Are we? I'm looking at y'all. There's more than one hair on your head now. You see that? Are y'all getting this? You getting it? Matthew 19:5 says, and said, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be what? One. Remind you, all these verses, you look behind that word one, presenting these verses, is the word mia, meaning first. Wherefore, they are no more twain, but one. So if you read this with a regular American mindset, you'll think one, uno. Is that right? Ein. Is that right? Isn't that right? Just one. But that's not what the original is presenting to us. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the motivation of these people constantly mistranslating certain words? And I keep telling you what it is. They have a certain culture that they want to put in front of us. They have a certain society. Now, why in the word would it write that if any man takes away from the prophecies of his book, that the Father has a judgment for them if man wasn't going to do it? Right. Y'all get it? Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore Yah have joined together, let no man put asunder. Now, Dr. Luck says from his book, In the Morality of Biblical Polygyny, he says, in the Greek phrase, the husband of one wife, and archinus, without the definitive article the. The net result of this structure is to stress the singleness of devotion rather than the number of wives. Y'all hear that? Is there to stress the singleness of devotion? Now, we're dealing with the word one, but there are a few common misunderstandings. For instance, in Ephesians 5:31, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and shall be joined unto his wife. They two shall be what? One flesh. Where they get this from? They get it from the Genesis 2:24 model. Is that correct? Yes, Mark 10:8, and they twain shall be what? One flesh. So then they are no more twain, but they're what? One. All this one is mia, first verse. Where they get it from? The Bereshit 2:24. Misconception. The misconception is this: a man cannot be one flesh with more than one woman. Is that not what's commonly taught today? Yes. All right. But, however, 1 Corinthians 6:16 says what? Know ye not that he which is joined to a harlot is of how many bodies? For two, he saith, shall be what? One flesh. Where are they quoting from? The Genesis 2:24 account then, isn't it? So it's obvious that sexual intercourse joins a man and a woman as one flesh, be they married or in sin. 1 Corinthians 6:16 makes it clear a man can be one flesh with both his wife and a harlot. Yes, that's true. Regardless of his marital status. A man can in fact be one flesh with more than one woman. That's proper interpretation. It does not mean that he is married to the harlot. Marriage requires a covenant and consummation. And when a man goes into a harlot, he's not making no covenant. And then it goes on to say in 17, but he that is joined unto the master is what? One spirit. The rest of the text for the word mia. 1 Timothy 3:12 says, let the deacons be the husbands of how many? One, which is what? First, ruling their children and their own houses well. Titus 1:6 says, and if any be blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, not accused of riot or unruly. Now, the man of Yah must be married to his first wife, i.e., that he cannot have divorced his first wife if or when he took another wife. Yes, y'all get that? Yes, a fact. If Saul, Paul, wanted in 1 Timothy 3:2 1 Timothy 3:12, and Titus 1:6, to mean clearly that a bishop could have one and only one wife, then he would have used the Greek word hes. There's a Greek word for one, which means exclusively one, hes. And that's Numbers Greek 15:20, which is specifically meaning a primary numeral one, period. But he didn't use hes, he used mia. A fact. The Greek word hes is used 282 times and is always the numeral one. If Paul had meant to portray clearly the meaning of only one singular wife, he would have used hes instead of mia in 1 Timothy 3:2, 1 Timothy 3:12, and Titus 1:6. But in each one of those places, he translated the word as mia, meaning first. So, when we read it in context again, 1 Timothy 3:1, trustworthy is the word. If a man longs for the position of an overseer, he desires a good work. The overseer then should be blameless, the husband of the first wife, meaning he has not divorced his first wife. So we have a lot of people call themselves bishops today, and they're divorced from their first wife. You get that? Sober, sensible, orderly, kind, to strangers, able to teach. Not given to wine, nor brawler, but gentle, not quarrelsome, no lover of money, one who rules his own house well, having his children in subjection with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how shall he look after the assembly of Elohim? So, we clearly see in this little short teaching, and we didn't make it long because we make it so you can digest it. Are you following? We clearly see that when you start looking behind the words presented to us, be it in the Old Testament where it says, you know, it's translated from the Hebrew, the New Testament from the Greek, we see that the whole meaning of a whole passage is changed just by one word. And what it does, it helps us to check our mind and this so-called traditional marriage or this traditional point of view. And we can see that Paul never had a scathing rebuke, nor did he ever judge, which we see that Josephus said it was commonly amongst our people in Israel. All right? And it was also common amongst our people no matter where we were. It's just that there's a lot going on and more than meet the eye. The idea of this study is to present you the truth so you'll know the truth. So if you ever run across a polygamous family, that you will say, welcome to the